The Galactic Empire is depicted as one of the most, if not the most powerful faction of all the Star Wars lore. At its height, it ruled most of the galaxy, had millions of inhabited worlds, trillions of citizens, and a military so large it could only be rivaled by the ancient empires of the Old Republic. So as a Stellaris channel, I thought, what if I pit the Galactic Empire against a peak mid-game Stellaris Empire? And could the Empire still reign supreme? Could they still maintain galactic dominance? Could they still be
the first Galactic Empire?
So some groundwork I want to lay before we start this matchup, more specifically for the Stellaris Empire. So for one, I won't be using any Ascension perks, so you can kind of throw that out on finicky how all that stuff works and how it affects the Empire. Two, I will only use the auto generation when it comes to the ship design, so that's what you guys will see. And we're just doing like there's no min maxing, so just how a peak mid game Empire will be at the peak of the mid game, kind of where it's more so early late game, late mid game, in that kind of ballpark area. That's usually where a peak mid game Empire lays. So we're just gonna be using those specs, and for the Star Wars, I only be pulling from the canon, what they have in canon. Won't be doing anything with Legends. So with that being said, let's get into this. This will be fun. So let's set the stage. Imagine you're Emperor Palpatine. A new civilization has just appeared out of nowhere in the unknown regions. They control maybe 50 worlds. That's impressive, but hardly a concern. The Galactic Empire is the strongest power in the entire galaxy. Before we even discuss fleets, weapons, or technology, the Stellaris Empire faces a brutal reality, and that is the fact that the Empire can afford losses. Their scale is insane, especially compared to a mid-game Empire, even if they're at their peak. But are numbers all that matter in a war? Contrary to what is shown regularly in Star Wars media, the Empire actually has a lot more ships than just Star Destroyers. Shocking, I know. If someone actually decided to take on the Imperial Navy, what would they be facing? First up, we have the Raider-class corvette, a 150-meter-long starship designed specifically for defending larger ships against enemy starfighters and small attack craft. A destroyer-type ship in the Arquins-class light cruiser, a 325-meter-long light cruiser made for patrol, convoy escort, anti-piracy, and fleet support ship. And now we get to the one that you'll more than likely see if you actually were in the Star Wars universe, in the 900-meter-long cruiser-type vessel, the Victory-class Star Destroyer, that specializes in direct engagements with enemy warships and orbital bombardment. If you actually were in the Star Wars universe, you will see these guys more than often than not. These guys were the backbone of the Galactic Empire. And of course, for battleship, we have the Imperial 1 and the Imperial 2 class Star Destroyers. A roughly 1 mile long starship, a single Star Destroyer could independently conquer worlds, suppress rebellions, and escort convoys, command fleets, and conduct planetary bombardments, and transport entire armies. At the height, the Empire roughly had 25,000 of these ships across the galaxy. And finally, we have a Titan-class vessel and the Executor-class Super Star Destroyer. Famously serving as a flagship of Darth Vader, the Executor was a 19,000 meter starship serving as a mobile fleet headquarters, battle station, carrier, invasion fleet, and strategic command center combined into a single vessel. It's kind of iffy on how many were built in the Galactic Empire. As shown in the movies, we only seen Vader's, but in lore there might have been, rebels say there's probably at least 12 of them made in the Galactic Empire. I could be wrong, please fact check me on that. Each ship was fielding some variation of regular to heavy turbo lasers, point to fist systems, missile batteries, and regular to heavy ion cannons, and of course deflector shields to fend off enemy fire. Now let's talk about the ace in the Emperor Sheev. Oh, that was a terrible joke. But anyway, the Death Star is a marvel in military technological advancement. A weapon capable of destroying entire planets. Even though Stellaris is no stranger to planet, system, or even galactic destroying weapons, having a Colossus this early, especially one like the Death Star, which itself would probably be a mobile colony, shout out to nomads, The Death Star will fundamentally change how this war will play out. And if protected and not destroyed, every Stellaris strategic system is under threat of annihilation and will be utterly crippled a mid-game empire. And let's talk about the elephant in the room. Another big advantage that the Empire possesses is, of course, they have way more resources and materials than a mid-game Empire, even at its peak. At this time, a mid-game Empire has no access to megastructures to even boost their economic potential and output, and even resource and ship output to match the Empire. Without the later megastructures of the late game, the Empire can produce a mid-game Stellaris Empire even at its peak will be at extreme economic disadvantage to the Galactic Empire. Now, hearing all this, you might come to the assumption that this is just an utter slaughter, utterly washed. Like, why am I even making this video even for? Well, just because it's a mid-game empire doesn't mean that they're weak. Even though that a mid-game empire is significantly weaker than even an early-game empire, that's mainly because that Stellaris' late-game scaling is utterly fucking absurd. Even so, a peak mid-game empire has survived decades of galactic competition, expanded across dozens of systems, beaten and conquered rival civilizations, and optimized entire planets for military and economic production. And even at this point, a mid-game empire has developed technologies that would be considered miraculous in Star Wars. Palpatine would definitely want the tech that even a mid-game Stellaris empire could provide. And not only that, Stellaris' empires at this time period are developing ships that are specifically designed to destroy capital ships, i.e. Star Destroyers and Super Star Destroyers. Now, the first big thing that goes into Stellaris' favor is the technology gap. Now, the one thing that really didn't shock me even when making this script and researching for this video is the technology gap between Stellaris and Star Wars. Even at a mid-game empire point in the middle of a Stellaris campaign, Stellaris' technology just overexceeds what the Empire could even be capable of when it comes to shields, weapons, and how the ship design is made. Star Wars technology is impressive, but it's also remarkably stagnant. An average Imperial officer uses technology that looks eerily similar that existed from decades, even centuries earlier. Mainly that's because of the great HoloNet crash that happened, leaving most of not all systems cut off from the rest of the galaxy, mainly making it to where Star Wars had to come up from the ashes and make all their technology again. Now, the Empire does try to improve on the technology output of Star Wars, but it's still significantly slower than Stellaris. A Stellaris Empire constantly improves. And even where the Stellaris Empire might lack, which is ships and ship design, it's still eerily similar and actually pretty even between the two. At first, the Empire will need to deal with Stellaris' corvette, that although it is not as armored as the Imperial counterpart in the Raider, it has significantly better shields, weapons, and maneuverability than the Raider class. And then we have destroyers, which are made for point defense and defending the fleet against enemy strike craft, which will utterly dismantle the Empire's TIE fighters in close quarter combat. Now, with cruisers, this is where things really start to get bad for the Imps. Stellaris cruisers are made, and I do mean made, to take out enemy capital ships and rip through enemy shields quickly with this kinetic artillery and exposing the hull to heavy laser and plasma fire. Not to mention, it can also deploy numerous advanced strike craft who can intercept enemy missile fire and fly circles around most TIE pilots except for the higher end TIE pilots and TIE fighters, and of course, Lord Vader himself. And finally, we have early battleships. Most peak mid-game empires are able to achieve this remarkable technology, but still is very much in its infancy. See now how his most late game battleships are able to comprise a fleet power of an entire fleet in its one singular ship. But make no mistaken, early battleships can absolutely change a battle by its mere appearance. No imp ship will be safe while these things are fielded. The one thing that makes battleships extremely dangerous is that a battleship fields a giga cannon. A giga cannon, for all intents and purposes, straight up deletes enemy ships in a single kinetic shot. And it also fields disruptors that literally bypass through enemy shields and armor, affecting the hull directly. There is no canon Star Wars weapon that I have seen that compares to the Giga Cannon that the battleship possesses from Stellaris. I could be wrong, the Empire could have possessed weapons similar to that on their Star Destroyers and the other ships, but as far as I can see, there was no ship or weapon like that on their ships. I could be wrong, like I said. If I am, please correct me in the comments. I'll be happy to admit that I'm wrong. That being said though, let's get back to glazing Stellaris. Now with Stellaris, by the peak of mid-game, many Stellaris civilizations possess most, if not all, Tier 3 tech and even some early Tier 4 tech if they advance that far ahead. Some of those Tier 3 techs that are on their ships are advanced shield systems, antimatter power generation, artificial intelligence, advanced targeting computers, long-range tachyon sensors, and long-range artillery platforms like the Giga Cannon, of course. Now, speaking about some of these technologies, the advanced shield systems is far leagues and bounds ahead of the deflector shields that are seen in Star Wars. Even so, antimatter power generation is even a greater power than what anything in Star Wars possess. So like I said, artificial intelligence is leaps and bounds better than anything we've seen in Star Wars, unless you want to count Legends and stuff like that. Like I said before, Stellaris's technology, especially when it gets to that late game, mid-late game to early late game, it utterly just supersedes anything that Star Wars was ever able to pull out. Like, it's just astronomically just retarded how good that stuff is. The one final thing I want to touch on that Stellaris has over the Empire are citadels. Before you even be able to land on a planet, imagine arriving into a system expecting a space station. Instead, you encounter what's effectively an orbital space habitat equipped with defense platforms, defense hangars, missile batteries, shield generators, and fleet support system. Not only will the Empire fleets have to deal with citadels, most mid-game empires have constructed orbital space rings around key planets, giving them a boost to planet resource output, or even effectively another space citadel that can be built as nearly as strong as the original space citadel in a system star that the Empire will even have to get to before they can land on a single planet. A developed Stellaris border system can become a nightmare to invade, especially in and around choke points. Unlike Star Wars defenses, these installations are specifically designed to fight and hold off entire fleets. Now, how would a battle of these two juggernauts play out? Well, I imagine the first Imperial task force enters Stellaris territory through a captured hyperlane junction. The Empire will likely start off by sending task force fleets composing of 3 Imperial-class Star Destroyers, 6 Victory-class Star Destroyers, and a dozen escorts. To the Imperial commanders, this is a routine pacification operation. To the Stellaris admirals, they're targets. Long-range sensors detect fleet movement the moment they enter any system. The Stellaris Empire will likely respond by gathering its fleets and putting them into position, while the Imperial commanders order their fleets forward. The first initial engagements will actually have the Stellaris Empire coming out on top more often than not, with their superior technology, firepower, and battle doctrine. The Stellaris Empire might be smaller in number, but their sheer quality of their ships and weapons just outright dismantle these task force fleets that the Empire initially sends out. I cannot stress enough how much disruptors would decimate Star Destroyers in any type of strike craft that the Empire possesses. Having the ability to bypass shields and armor entirely gives the Stellaris Empire an overwhelming edge in these first initial engagements. Even though I have the Stellaris Empire come out on top of most of these engagements for the most part, that is by no means they're coming out of these anyway unscathed. They are desperately having a clock against time, because even though they're able to destroy the Empire ships, the Empire is able to field more ships than the mid-game Stellaris Empire, which is exactly why when the Emperor hears of all these task force fleets being destroyed by the Stellaris Empire, he responds in the only way he knows how, which is escalation. The next set of fleets are not small task force fleets, but whole sector battle groups. 20 Imperial class Star Destroyers, dozens of Victory class vessels, hundreds of escorts, and an Executor class Super Star Destroyer. By this time, the Imperial Navy will now understand that this cannot be treated as a simple local rebellion, but an all-out war. The Stellaris Empire understands something too. If the Empire keeps escalating with their fleets and ship output, they will eventually lose. No matter how advanced their technology is, and no matter how better their ships are compared to the Empire's, they cannot replace losses as quickly as the Empire can. Now this war becomes a race. Can the Stellaris Empire destroy Imperial fleets faster than the Galactic Empire can build new ones? With their advanced combat computers, superior missile technology, fleet doctrine, shield and armor-piercing weapons, every major battle costs the Empire ships, but every major battle costs the Stellaris Empire something far more valuable: time and resources. The war goes on for decades. The Empire begins attacking from multiple fronts. New fleets arrive faster than old ones can be destroyed. Industrial wars are worked around the clock. Shipyards never stop. The Stellaris Empire wins battle after battle, but their territory keeps slowly shrinking and shrinking from the Empire's sheer number. Sectors slowly fall and choke points are overwhelmed. Eventually, the decisive battle occurs upon the Stellaris Empire capital. Every remaining battleship, cruiser, destroyer, and corvette is called home. Every defense platform, fleet doctrine change, everything is committed. The battle lasts for days. Thousands of ships are destroyed. The Executor is finally brought down by concentrated missile fire. Imperial class Star Destroyers collide while attempting emergency maneuvers. By the end of the engagement, the Stellaris fleet has achieved the impossible. An entire sector group is annihilated by the Stellaris Navy. But there's also one problem. And that's the fact that the Galactic Empire can lose entire sector fleets and continue the war. Even a peak mid-game empire cannot do this to this magnitude. And then another Imperial sector group arrives. The Stellaris fleet fights brilliantly. It wins tactical victories. It destroys ships at an astonishing rate. But in the end, it is crushed beneath the weight of an enemy that simply possesses too many resources that they cannot match. And when the Stellaris system home fleet is promptly removed, they then see a massive moon moving towards them in their home system. And once it's in range, they receive a hail from a hooded cloaked figure, and he simply says, "Submit to the might of his Galactic Empire or be destroyed." And of course, the Stellaris Empire refuses these terms and calls whatever remaining ships it has left to set upon this massive moon station. Hearing their response, the Emperor gives the order to his Grand Moff to set upon the Stellaris Empire's capital. Suddenly, this moon comes into view of the planet and is not a moon, but is a massive space station, and it begins to light up. And before the Stellaris Empire can even respond to this station, it shoots a beam of green light, hitting the planet, destroying it in its entirety. The victory goes to the Galactic Empire. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This took a long time to make, mostly because I'm a lazy piece of shit, but also it did take a little bit of time to actually find the research. And it's actually a lot closer than what you guys think, which is why I needed the research to actually see who won this matchup between the Galactic Empire and a mid-game Stellaris Empire. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys want more of this like versus matchup between a Stellaris Empire and any sci-fi fiction, please leave a comment down below what fictional universe you would like to see up against a Stellaris Empire. It could be an early game setting, mid game setting, or even a late game setting. I know there's some other stuff as well that I didn't touch up on. Like, if you guys want me next time to talk about how ground battles will work out, because I know I didn't really talk about how the ground warfare will work out, mainly because Stellaris' ground warfare is kind of finicky. There's not really what each ground troop, what it does or what not. Also, I know for the Empire, of course, I didn't include the Force and other stuff like that. I didn't really include psionics from Stellaris or any augmentation between modified genetics or cybernetic and synthetic ascension, because that just seemed like a whole big little stuff, a lot of caveats of what that is, like a whole lot of finicky stuff. But if you guys want to see some stuff like that actually integrated into like this video, I can actually do that. Let me know down below what other sci-fi civilization you guys would like to see up against the Stellaris civilization, and what age do you want the Stellaris Empire to be, from early to late game. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoy, and leave a like and comment what you guys think about the video. Peace.